Hello, and welcome to this new episode of the Hessian Scrum. Joining me today is Alberto from legendary Mexican death metal band Mortuary. Hello, Alberto. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Hello, Nick. Thanks to you for inviting us to participate, to take part on this interview.
So, let's start off with what you did recently. Last year you released one song, just one single called Holy War.
Yeah.
And, it just sounds great. It sounds like you're still in the prime of your game, despite it being 30 years later. Can you tell us more about that song, why you recorded it, how did it come together?
Yeah. Yes, we were invited to participate in a compiling CD. With a few other bands, and it was a good chance, a good opportunity to show what our new music was like. So that's why we decided to accept the invitation, well, this is how Mortuary is sounding right now in the present, right? I'm trying to keep the sound that we used to have in the 90s with all the albums like Black and Images and Shine of the End. But anyway, it shows some evolution, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to do.
You're working with a different lineup than you were before and then in the 90s. So how is that like?
Well, there's been it's a long story, but since our frontman Joel Alanis passed away, I decided to continue with the band, and also I decided to change. I mean, how can I say? I decided to refresh the band. That's why I started looking for completely new members. So the lineup right now is absolutely new. As I tell you, I decided to like a new start, right? I decided that Mortuary should start again, not exactly from zero, but it's something like that, right? I'm trying to start again, and of course take advantage of our history in the past, right?
Yeah. What I've noticed on the song, it reminds, pace wise, the speed, the tempos are very similar to what's going on in Black and Images, but you've got the more kind of complex leads and melodies that really came later.
Yeah, I suppose it's my personal evolution, right? I didn't want to because we're still working on more material. This is only a sample. This song Holy War is just a sample of what we're doing now. So on the new material we're working right now, I didn't want it to be another Black and Images. Of course, it has to have like some similarities. It has. We come from there, but anyway, I wanted this new music, new songs to be a little more evolution, right? More modern, if you can say that.
Yes, I completely understand. So, how does it feel for you to be recording in a digital environment compared to an analog environment?
Very different, very different. Now the technology has advanced too much, and everything is new for me, right? So I had to. I am learning to use all the new technology, especially in the recording studio. There were many different things since we recorded in the 90s, but I'm getting used to it, and I think it's good. I think it's great to be able to use this new technology in order to show what we're doing now, right? I think it's great.
Yeah. Do you miss the analog sound of the 90s at any time?
Sure, yes, always, because it was something more, I don't know, more raw, a raw sound, etc., right?
Yeah.
And the way of recording it was also different. So yes, we missed a little bit that, but anyway, I'm very happy with what we are experimenting now.
All right, so you were one of the kind of first death metal bands in Mexico, right? Which is which is a scene that has quite a few important bands. You Transmetal, Shub Niggurath, the Chasm, Cenotaph, etc., etc. But a lot of those bands say it was extremely difficult, but how did such an incredible scene arise from such difficulties?
Well, we really wanted to do it. I mean, it was very hard, financially talking, and also, for example, just for once, the recording studios didn't have people or engineers that knew what we were doing, so it was difficult to explain to them what we wanted to do. It was everything was new for them in the 90s. So it was hard. I think it was hard. It was hard, but we really wanted to do it. I mean, we saw that everything was changing. I mean, I was used to playing and listening to heavy metal music such as Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, and then when I discovered this new music like Slayer, like Possessed, Sacrifice, etc. So I got really excited. I really wanted to try that and play that kind of music, and we did it. I mean, it didn't matter how hard it was gonna be, getting guitars, getting equipment, getting everything, but we really wanted to do that, and it was very nice that time there were many other bands, as you mentioned, Cenotaph, which in the past was called Damn Cross or something like that. Shub which name was in the beginning Tormentor. So all these bands made us really feel more accompanied on the process, right? We were not alone trying to do things right on this new death metal scene. We knew there were other bands that were also working on the same. They had the same objectives, the same purposes. So it was very good. It was great, and we became very good friends. And right now, I'm very good friends with the guys from Cenotaph, from the ex Chubnigurad, etc. The Chasm. They are very good friends.
Yes, it's impressive, how each band, each of the bigger bands from the 90s Mexican scene are so distinctive. We can't confuse Mortuary for Cenotaph or trans metal. They're so. How did you create your own sound? What was the idea for that?
And that's something really interesting, because it's I used to I usually compare this with the heavy metal scene in the 80s. How we could identify immediately bands like Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden is very different from Judas Priest. Judas Priest is very different from Motorhead. So all of them were heavy metal or hard rock or whatever they wanted to call it. And but anyway, they had very different sounds. You identify them immediately. So that's why I find it very interesting that these Mexican bands that we were coming out in that time, we belong to the same scene, to the same thrash death metal scene, but we all sound very different. I suppose it's because we have different influences, right? In my case, I was always really, really influenced by bands like Slayer. I always wanted to play like Slayer, like Possessed, right? And I suppose the other bands had other different influences, right?
Yeah.
But yes, it's really interesting that you cannot mistake one band with another, right?
Yeah, it's very impressive for such a small scene.
Yeah,
exactly. So let's start with Where Death Takes Your Soul, right?
yeah.
That was your that was your first demo. You're still kind of finding your sound,
yeah,
and everything, but but still with just very basic, Slayer and Possessed, you still managed to create a death metal EP with thrash metal influences. So were you trying to be heavier than those bands?
Of course, yes. As I tell you, in the beginning, we were used to deal with heavy metal bands in the local scene, especially Mortuary is from the north of Mexico. We are kind of a little far away from the other bands who are from the capital, from Mexico City. We are from Monterrey, Mexico, which is closer to the United States. And here in the local scene, there were many heavy metal bands, many. And as I tell you, when I heard for the first time to Slayer, to Creator, to Bathory, Venom, these kind of bands, I decided that I wanted to sound heavier than the heavy metal bands that existed in that time here in my local scene. I didn't want to play the same. I didn't want to be like the other bands. So that's why this demo reflects what we really wanted to do: to play fast, to be aggressive. We didn't know we sounded similar to this or that band, because those were our influences. We were trying to not to imitate, but to sound like them, right? But yes, that's what we really wanted to do. That's why the sound of Where Death Take Your Soul is very raw, very aggressive, because that's what we wanted. We wanted to be to be irreverent, right? We wanted to go against the system in that time. And as I tell you, the sound engineer was really in shock, because he didn't know this kind of music, and he didn't know what we were doing. So we all the time we were trying to explain to him what to do, what sound we wanted to get, right?
I can imagine, because from that, from Where Death Takes Your Soul to Blackened Images, you really upped the game there. Both playing wise, everything was tighter, the production was sharper, the songs were more complex, a lot more. You had your own sound. So what happened between the EP and the album?
Yeah, I suppose we were working hard. we were working very hard to continue writing more songs, to continue showing that Mexican bands can have the same power as other bands in other countries. And there was an evolution, right? The same way there was an evolution between Blackened Images and Shine of the End, and then between Shine of the End and the other EP that we got, that we recorded, the Death Won't Leave the Throne. I don't know if you know that material from us.
Oh yeah, I've heard it.
So every recording, every time we entered the recording studio, there were many new things to show. So I suppose it was because we were working hard and practicing a lot and trying to get new ideas, and that was reflected in the recording.
Yeah. There's a lot of variety within Blackened Images. You take, for example, what was it, Rites of Death, and for example, Abyss Angel. Abyss Angel is a lot more straightforward death thrash, not a lot of chug chug chugger. But then Rites of Death is a lot of very fast, intricate tremolo rhythms, on the higher strings. How do two songs coexist on the same album? What were you thinking there?
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy because Rites of Death was written by the singer Joel Alnis, and wrote Abyss Angel. So even though we had the same influences, even though we were going in the same direction, at the same time we had different ways of expressing our music, right? So Joel put everything he had in Rites of Death. I put everything I had in Abyss Angel, and that's why they are different. But at the same time, in some way, they belong to that album, right? They are part of the album, and they sound they have similarities, even though they are kind of different. And also, I think some of the aspects of Rites of Death, I think Joel was starting to try to experiment new things. He was always trying to take elements from other areas, from other, not only from death metal or thrash metal. I mean, me too. I also listen a lot to progressive rock and classical music, etc. But he was really into other kinds of music. So he was always trying to incorporate other sounds and make them part of our music. So maybe that's why his music sounded a little different from my music. Though at the end, when we put everything together, then it became Mortuary, right?
Yeah, definitely. Because on that album, there are a lot of kind of very simple melodies or riffs that are played a lot, but it never gets boring. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you just especially the second riff on Abyss Angel, da 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 da, kind of very simple, but you play a lot. but without boring the listener, how do you decide when to stop playing a riff, to play it more, not have too much?
I don't know. It was just the feeling. Just the feeling. We were when we were putting together all the elements. For example, for Abyss Angel, we used to tell the drummer. We told them, okay, do this, and then we check how it sounded, and no, better do this, that different, and so on. I mean, we decided how long was going to be a stage on the song, etc. According to I mean, according to our feelings, how we felt it sounded, right? If we felt it was getting boring, well, we shortened that part, etc. Or if we felt it was great, well, we made it longer. So I don't know. It was a process.
Because today a lot of kind of younger bands, especially with COVID, everyone writes the songs, everyone can make demos at home on their laptop, on their phones or whatever, and then they bring it. Did you guys just write everything together?
No, that was something. I mean, some of the songs, especially on Black and Images, some of the songs we wrote them separate, and then we put them together put it together in the rehearsal, in the practice. But some other songs, for example, Black and Images, we wrote them together, Joel, Alanis, and me. We sat in a room and okay, I have this riff, and then he said I have this one, and then we tried to put them together. But most of the songs we usually work separately, and then we brought the music to the rehearsal room, to the practice room, and we told the other members of the band, okay, you're gonna do this and you're gonna do that. So it was a combination. Some songs Joel and I wrote them separately, and some songs we wrote them together.
Yeah, let's talk about your kind of lead guitar style, right?
Yeah.
One thing that's very surprising in this album, you avoid the kind of Kerry King, Jeff Hanneman, wow, the noise style. You try to play actual melodies.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as I tell you, they are really a big influence on me. Jeff Hanneman and Kerry King and Trey from Morbid Angel and guitarists like that. I have a lot of influence from them, but always I tried not to sound exactly like them, right? So I put my own style on it, and that's it. I always say that I have a very dirty way of playing the guitar. My guitar sounds very dirty, very. Some people don't like it. Some friends say, "No, it's very noisy the way you play the guitar." I don't like it, but I don't care because I like it. Yes. So yes, as I tell you, I always try to put something. I always try to make it my style, right? And so far, I mean, up until today, I still try to make my guitar sound just like Mortuary sound.
Yeah. Is that harder with modern equipment, which doesn't tend to be as noisy?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't use a lot of equipment. I use an amp. It can be a Marshall or a Mesa Boogie, whatever. I have always used this small pedals, metal zone from Boss.
Yes.
And these kind of pedals. That's what I have always used all my life. And right now, I'm trying to experiment. I'm trying to check new sounds, new things. But I don't know if I'm going to put them in the next recordings. But so far until today, I have always used the same equipment, just an amplifier and a pedal, and that's it. Some delay, and that's it.
All right. So this is a bit more of a technical question. What do you prefer, the distortion from a pedal or the distortion from the amp?
It depends. It depends on the amp. I mean, some amps have very good distortion. But I am more used to getting the distortion from my pedals, right? That's the way I work. But as I tell you, I'm trying new things. I'm trying, and since I have the new members of the band, they are very young. They have the range is between 21 and 26 years old. So they are very young guys. They are very the other guitar player, the drummer, the singer. They are very young. So they have new ideas. They use different things, and I'm trying to adapt to them as the same time. And at the same time, I am trying to make them adapt to Mortuary sound from the 90s. So it's a very exciting process. Trying to teach them how Mortuary should sound, but at the same time learn from them what they have, because they know about all the new technology, and I am learning a lot from them.
Yes. Is it sometimes kind of difficult to explain to them, what Mortuary is? Because, talking about kids who grew up with the internet, who have all the music they need. I know Blackened Images first, when it came out, it was handmade cassettes, so they didn't, they didn't have to deal with that. Is it sometimes, do you feel like the generational gap makes things complicated sometimes?
A little bit. Sometimes they are like what? Like, I mean, what do you mean? You had to do this or that in the 80s, 90s? But at the end, they understand. They know that they were other times, and I always tell them that they should be happy that now they have all the technology for them, and they can use all the technology they have in front of them. So they have to benefit from that, right? And we too. I mean, the musicians, the old school musicians, we also have many things to take from the new technology. But yes, as you say, there is some gap from between these new generations and the old generations. But I think we can make them work out, right? We can make them work.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of the cassettes from the 80s, they haven't aged well in sound, right?
Yeah, I mean, for some reason they are still new. I mean, I suppose it's because in heavy music since the 70s, I think this type of music is very special. It's very special because, for example, I can listen right now to a Black Sabbath song, the Black Sabbath recording, and for me, it doesn't sound like from the 70s. It sounds modern. It sounds from now. So I think it's very common in this kind of music, in the metal music. Everything, Possessed, Slayer, Morbid Angel, everything could be recorded in the 70s, 80s, 90s. But if you listen to them right now, it doesn't sound old. It sounds cool, right?
Yeah, definitely. All right, so let's move on to Shine of the End.
Yeah.
So you guys had quite a bit of attention with Blackened Images. Like, Shine of the End seemed somewhat anonymous at time. The release didn't have as much hype, but
yeah,
you went for a very bassy production, almost kind of muffled at times, and a lot very slower, a lot of rhythm, a lot of very intricate melodies. There was a huge. It sounded like a different band.
Yes, and it's interesting because we were the same. The drummer, the singer, and me were the same. That we recorded "Where Death Take Your Soul," Blackened Images. There was only a new guitar player, who in fact he only participated with some solos, some guitar solos in the Shine of the End recording. And I think it was as I said before, it was the spirit of Joel's spirit in experimenting new things, right? Most of this recording was written by Joel Alanis, the singer, the bass and singer, and I think it was his way of showing that he was evolving into a new musician, right? In fact, when we took a break from 97 to 2002, 2003, we took like a 5-year recess. And in that period, he made other projects, other bands, and they were really interesting. This project that he had, more like industrial music, more techno, electro music, or something like that. I don't know. So he was always trying to experiment new things. So I think that's why Shine of the End was the final product sounded like that, like very different. Of course, I participated in putting my style on the riffs, on the solos, on everything on the recording, all the guitars. But at the end, it was more. It was most of the ideas came from Joel, and it was his way of experimenting new things with our music, and we accepted it. I mean, we agreed with him that it was good to try new things.
Yeah,
and also, and we like the final sound. I mean, we really loved it. And it's very interesting that when you say that it was not really promoted. It came out only on tape. I don't know why, only tape. It was never made on CD or any other format. So it was crazy. I don't know why he never tried to re-edit that material.
It's crazy because I think I read somewhere it was 1,000 cassettes. So they could have done it on CD because CDs were cheaper than cassettes by that time already.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't. Also the company that was producing this material, maybe that what they wanted that way. I don't know. I don't know exactly what happened, but that's the way it happened. Maybe in the future, where I receive a lot of proposals to re-release that material. So I'm working on that. Maybe next year we will be re-editing that, the Shine of the End on CD and maybe on vinyl, and I don't know. But we're working on that.
That's very exciting. We'll be waiting.
Yeah.
So tell us, what are your plans for the future?
Yes, as I tell you, we're working a lot on new material. The companies that released the compilation CD, this one, Death Metal Power from Beyond.
Yes.
The one of the companies are inviting us to make an extended play, an EP, and we're doing that. We're working on that. We will probably enter the recording studio in a few months, and we expect it to be released at the end of the year. And also we're working on more songs because we want to make a long play, which I'm sure many fans have been waiting for a long play from Mortuary.
Yeah.
And that's what we're working now. A lot of shows. We're working on shows. Many of the new generations didn't have the chance to see us alive because they are new. Because they are 20, 25, and they are hungry for seeing new bands and learning from old school bands. So we're working on a lot of shows. In this next months, we're going to be playing in Texas, in the US, in Chicago, in Los Angeles, a few shows in Mexico, and that's what we're doing. We're working on that.
All right, I have one final question for you.
Yep.
So on the Death Won't Leave the Throne EP, it's quite funny. So the main song is obviously called Death Won't Leave the Throne, but side B has La Muerte el Trono no dejará, which is literally the same thing. Why have the same title in English and Spanish?
It's because it was recorded in English and in Spanish. The lyrics are in Spanish. Also, Joel wanted to try to check if singing in Spanish we could get more, because here in Mexico many people like heavy metal and death metal sung in Spanish. I don't know why. I have never liked the metal in Spanish, but Joel wanted to try, and he said maybe we can reach more people by singing one song in Spanish, and it was just an experiment. But yes, it was like an altered version of the song, right?
Yeah. All right. I think that's us done. Any final words?
I would like to invite the old school people and new generations to try Mortuary. Check that we're doing new things. We're doing exactly what we used to do in the 90s, putting all of our efforts on making very aggressive music, very fast music, and you will like it. You're going to be happy if you get some of our stuff, whatever old stuff or the new things we're doing. Expect new material, expect new music from Mortuary, and thank you very much for the support.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Alberto.
No, thanks to you, Nick, and it was nice talking to you.
Yes, I'll put all the links will be in the description, so go check out Mortuary if you've never heard of them.